I've had a YouTube channel now since I think we started it in 2015 or so. Started my law firm in 2013. And I still have videos on there. Videos where I was much heavier than I am now. Videos where I didn't wear makeup. Videos where I kind of bobbled over my words. And we still have people watching those videos. Still to this day, my director of client services will ask people, how did you find out about us? And they will say, oh, I watched Allison's video about such and such, and I knew that this was the firm to help me. Not my prettiest moments, not my most polished moments, but moments where I got caught in the act. So it's super important. Just give yourself that freedom. Hi, everybody. It is Allison Williams here, your law firm mentor, and welcome back to another episode of the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast. And this week, we are going to be talking about how to get an unlimited number of clients in your law firm. Now, when I thought about this topic, someone proposed it to me candidly, and I said, there is such a thing as limits in life, and I don't know that we necessarily want to go talking pie in the sky. You can have a limitless ceiling on the number of clients that you have. But then I stopped and thought about it, and I was like, you actually do have the opportunity to have a limitless sky with your clients. You just have to know how to get to the people. Right. And we've talked a lot on this podcast before about what is the right client for you, right? Your ideal client avatar. But frankly, a lot of people don't get past that point because their answer is, my ideal client is someone who pays the bills and needs the service that I offer. So whether you're in the camp of getting really specialized, really niche, or you're in the camp of believing that any person with the dollars and cents that you are requiring is a suitable client, this is for you. Because what we're going to be talking about today are 3 simple strategies that you can use right now to be able to unlock that limitless ceiling on your law firm client base. So, what is the key? I'm going to first talk about what is the big picture, and then we're going to go into the strategies, right? So, big picture. The thing that you have to create in order to have a limitless supply of clients in your law firm, quite simply, is omnipresence. Okay, we've used that word before. Sounds like a big, scary word. It's not. All it means is that you have to be everywhere. Now, you might be thinking, how can I be everywhere? I hardly have time to write one blog or email. But here's the thing. It's a lot easier for you to mass produce content from one piece of content than you realize. And once you learn the strategies on how to do that and how to do that regularly, you open up a host of opportunities, whether it's on the different platforms that you're on, whether it is simply driving more people to your website, or it is a combination of that together with your email newsletter. So I want you to have in your repertoire, your toolbox, all of the different ways that you can take one piece of content and make it over and over and over and over again work for you. That's really what the goal is, so that it doesn't become a full-time chore for you. Whether you are a full-time litigator and you have nothing on your plate but litigation, or you are a full-time CEO of a law firm and you have nothing on your plate except organizing, managing, structuring, visioning, etc., or some combination of the both, your schedule is probably already full. And if your schedule is as full as most lawyers who find us, then you probably would instinctually say, I don't have time to create 5,000 pieces of content. So I want you to just keep the number 1 in your mind. And now I'm going to give you 3 strategies on how to take that one piece of content and make it work for you over and over again so that you get a limitless supply of new clients. All right. So first up, this is very simple, not easy, but simple. It is to use AI to make your content available on a multitude of platforms. So the simple thing is, once you have a really good piece of content, it doesn't become less good as content until you start trying to stick it someplace that it doesn't belong. So in other words, what you put on Facebook is not the same as what you put on X, which is not the same as what you put on Instagram, which is not the same as what you put on YouTube. And you have to intellectually understand that going in so that when you create for one platform, you have the opportunity to mass create for other platforms. And when I say to use AI for this is actually a fun thing to do that you yourself can do, or you can have someone in your office do it. I highly recommend getting people who are interested in tech to do this job because it's fun for them. For some of us that are a little tech resistant, probably not as much fun. But for those of us that actually enjoy technology, real simple how you do this, okay? So you take one post that you made on one of the different platforms and you simply load it into an AI generated server. It could be Chat GPT, that's kind of the one that most people think of, but there are others. And you simply say, make this piece of content applicable to and high performing on the next platform. So let's say you started with a Facebook post and you wanted to fit for Instagram, then you would say to ChatGPT, I want you to scan, a copy of this Facebook post. You can load it there directly or you can put a link to it. Either way, you need the server to be able to read it so it knows what you're talking about. And then say, now make this sexy for Instagram, right? Make it fun there, make it fit there. So, how is it going to do that? Well, the first time it's going to take a crack at it, it is going to probably recognize some very basic distinctions between the platforms. So, Instagram is more of a visual platform than a word based platform, even though we use visuals and words on both. And so, with that, it's going to be looking at how are we going to change the header? How are we going to highlight the graphics? Do we have a good enough graphic on this particular post on Facebook that it will translate and get as much attention on Instagram, right? And you can go back and forth with ChatGPT, just like you can with a lot of AI simulators, about what you want. So the first time you get it back, you're probably not going to get something perfect. But what you want to do is you want to start learning how to cue it to give you what you want. You want to add in those layers of information. You want to ask it questions. You want to say, this is kind of close, but I wanted something more like this, so that you are having a conversation with your AI tool. You are training your dragon, right? This is not passive activity, at least not at the start. So that means once you first start playing with this a little bit, the playing is going to take a little more time at the beginning than it will take once you've done it 4 or 5 times. But it doesn't take long at all. Several clients that I know here at Law Firm Mentor are already doing this and already seeing a cut down of as much as 80% of their marketing time now being allocated to someone else who can simply take one piece of content that they created and mass create it in other places. Okay? All right. Strategy number 2 to get to that big sexy word of omnipresence is I want you to think about getting caught in the act of video. Now, we talk a lot about video on this platform. Anybody who knows anything about marketing is going to advise you that know, like, and trust is much easier to be established when people are seeing you, hearing you, interacting with you in some way. So you want to give them the opportunity to have that experience of you. But I know a lot of us don't like being on video, right? Many of you, if I were to say, would you rather go try a murder case even though you're an estate planning attorney, or would you rather spend 15 minutes recording yourself on video? There are quite a few that would choose the murder case. And I know that is something that is challenging for a lot of us. And here's the thing, I don't judge it. It took me a long time to get comfortable on video, so I know the feeling. This is what I can tell you. I don't want you to start with the thing that is the hardest and scariest to do, because for most of us, it will take so long to get to that first act of sitting down to record that first video, or the first video that we're actually willing to release to the public, that we don't actually get any traction off of it, right? So we see the strategy, and the strategy is sitting there taunting us about how we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Let's make it easy for ourselves, okay? How do we make it easy? Well, the easiest way to make this easy is to capture yourself doing something that you can record where you're not feeling like you're sitting in front of a microphone and you're not actually perhaps even at a microphone. I want you to think about places that you might be like teaching CLEs, right? For those of you that teach continuing legal education classes for your bar association or for your bench, Great. Use that as an opportunity. Hire a videographer and have someone record you. And if you don't even want to go that far, if you're just not sure of what that strategy can do for you and you don't want to invest in it yet, start small. Have someone set up a tripod with a cell phone, have your cell phone recording you as you are teaching. The beautiful thing is when you do that, when you catch yourself in the act of recording, it feels more natural. And the great thing is you get to show yourself in the act of being the expert for others. So when people come to your page, when they see you on your YouTube channel or on your website, or in your video diary or on your email newsletter, they see attorney so and so was teaching a room of judges and lawyers about such and such. Now, ideal here, when we start getting into ninja tactics, that's when we're going to start talking about how you're going to stage video to capture certain images in the room and capture certain facial expressions and how you're going to get testimonials and things like that. Okay, we're not there. Right now, we're just at start. And at start, all I want you to do is just capture yourself teaching. Now, for those of you that don't teach CLE, you might say, well, what can I capture myself doing? I don't do that. That's not something that I have available to me. Well, are you teaching in front of community groups? Maybe you are doing live symposiums, and if you aren't, maybe you should be, right? If you are an attorney who works in the healthcare field, maybe you want to host a series where you go to local nursing homes or perhaps even invite healthcare administrators, depending on what you do in healthcare, and invite them out to a lunch and then just have someone capture you. Your assistant can be kind of inconspicuously in the back of the room, capturing you standing up at the table as everyone sits down to welcome them and talk to them about why you're here, right? But the idea is to do something that's normal and natural, where you feel comfortable, where you're in your element, and then have yourself be caught in the act. Don't make this into a production, okay? The pretty sexy produced videos, we're going to get there. Those are things that you're going to do at some point when you are really up-leveling your marketing. But for right now, you just got to get started. And I don't want you to think that because this is a just started strategy that it is not very powerful. I've had a YouTube channel now since I think we started it in 2015 or so. Started my law firm in 2013. And I still have videos on there, videos where I was much heavier than I am now, videos where I didn't wear makeup, videos where I kind of bobbled over my words, and we still have people watching those videos. Still to this day, my director of client services will ask people, how did you find out about us? And they will say, oh, I watched Allison's video about such and such, and I knew that this was the firm to help me. Okay. Not my prettiest moments, not my most polished moments, but moments where I got caught in the act. Okay. So it's super important. Just give yourself that freedom. Now, if you don't teach anywhere, if you're not on any stages that you create for yourself, you're not doing any type of virtual presentations, you're not in front of judges and lawyers teaching continuing legal education credit information, then I want you to replicate this in your office. And the way you would do that is to either have a client who's a friend, right? And I say who's a friend. Not everybody believes in becoming friends with their clients, but some of us have relationships that form with clients over time that are just more solid. And the more solid the relationship is, the more you might be comfortable calling upon that person. If it really can't be a client, then get a friend, get a neighbor, get somebody, and then just talk about what you would talk about with a client. That can be an initial client consultation. That can be giving someone advice about a strategy decision that has to happen in a case. But you want to show your expertise. And then again, you want to be caught in the act of what you do. So how do you do that? Well, again, you can have an assistant and circle by and record you. I know some people that are so sensitive to any movement in the room, just the idea that they know somebody is going to be coming to catch them puts them at a constricted place where they just can't perform. Then for those people, Set up a video in a room and just keep the video running. Keep it running the entire time. And great thing is, have you and whoever it is that is being recorded, and of course, as a lawyer, make sure you have their consent to record, or you're in a state where you don't need their consent to record. Follow the rules there, right? But you want to get into the room and then you want to just start talking. One of the things that one of my favorite videographers, Eric has been a videographer for Law Firm Mentor for many, many years now. And one of the things I loved about him, and the reason why I kept going back to him, was he would be able to stick people in front of a video and just get them talking and say, hey, at some point I'm going to turn the video on, but right now I just want to practice a little bit. Let's warm you up or whatever. And people would be natural and bubbly and bouncy. And then he'd say, all right, we're going to turn the video on now. And then, you know, and the beautiful thing is he would say, no, don't worry. The video's been running the whole time. I got everything I needed. And they'd be like, oh, what do you mean? And he'd say, here's the thing. Just knowing that you're being recorded oftentimes makes you less comfortable. So I wanted you to be comfortable. Now that you're comfortable, we have plenty of footage of great things that you said that we can use. So thank you for your time. And people always appreciate that now that they don't have to go through that shock fest of doing it while they know they're being recorded. All right. Now we've talked about, since we're talking about omnipresence and how to create omnipresence, how to take that one piece of content, mass produce it lots of places. We talked about using AI to take that one post on whatever platform you chose to put it and then have it ultimately altered to fit other posts. We also talked about making sure you get caught in the act of your expertise so that people can see how great you are. And then the final thing I want you to do, and now this one is a little bit more challenging for some of us, but it's probably going to be super easy for a lot of us, okay? And this is, I want you to write or record one piece of content and then break it into sequence, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? So I want you to think about how we normally would go through advising a client, right? Client comes in, client says, hey, lawyer, I got a problem. Lawyer asks some questions to understand the nature of the problem. And then at some point, lawyer starts giving out legal advice. And that legal advice tends to follow the points that need to be established by a statute or the defenses that are available in the order in which they are most probable or plausible for that particular client, or the content pieces that are going to be needed to create the transactional document that's available to this client, right? So there's a step by step. It may not always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes it might be 1, 2, 5, 3, 1, right? But however you get there, there are pieces of information that you give out. And more often than not, they are in some form of linear fashion. So I want you to think about that when you are either being caught in the act, right? If you're teaching a CLE, you're probably going to teach things in a logical format. Or even if you have already written a really great post that you decided to put on LinkedIn and now you're having that post altered to fit other platforms. However you get to the punchline of your content has pieces to it, right? It has more than just one thing to say. If you're a criminal defense lawyer, I am pretty sure at some point you have told someone you have the right to remain silent. But most criminal defense lawyers are also going to say, but most people don't use that right. So as soon as your mind gets asked a question, you have an instinctual desire to answer it, which means even though you intellectually know you have a right to remain silent, someone will just keep talking to you after they've told you that, and you're most likely to get answers. So here are some strategies around how not to do that. And then you get tips, right? Those tips are a part of a sequence. And the way that you would take your great piece of content and break it into sequence is just think about what's logically first, second, or third, okay? Doesn't have to be a long sequence. It can be top 5, top 3. I wouldn't recommend that it be a 10-part sequence. At some point, eyes start to glaze over. You start to lose people. But 3, 5, those tend to be the most common numbers that we go to. And you're going to take one piece of content to introduce the sequence. Then You're going to do day by day a different part of your sequence, part 1, part 2, part 3. And then you're going to wrap it up in a pretty bow with a conclusion on your 5th day. Beautiful thing about doing that is you've taken one piece of content and now you have broken it into multiple pieces. And there's a great value in that. So first, it keeps people coming back to you. Wherever they're consuming content from you, they're going to have to consume it in multiple places from you if they want to get different pieces. But if they know that there's going to be a series or a sequence of information coming from the source that you have created this piece of content on, they will go back there. So if you want to drive people to your newsletter, don't just say, hey, post on my newsletter, check it out. Say, hey, post on my newsletter, check it out. And once you get there, here's this great series we're going to be covering in our newsletters. So your newsletter could be weekly, could be monthly, however frequent. If you want to keep people involved in a sequence, you probably need to do it at least weekly. It could be multiple times a week. But you want to have them engaged with you, right? Or if you're doing it on social media, right? You can say, my platform is Instagram. So, come back tomorrow for more news you can use on the topic of X, whatever X is. And today we're going to talk about generally what is X. And then tomorrow I'm going to break down the strategies that you can use to implement X in your life to save you a legal hassle or to create for yourself a legal opportunity. However you get there, your goal is ultimately to keep people connecting with you where they found you. Now, there's a different strategy we're going to talk about at some point on how to get people to cross-platform. You don't want them just seeing you on LinkedIn or just seeing you on Facebook or just on your website. You want them in multiple places because bicycle, depending on the length of your bicycle, we're going to talk about what that is, by the way, for those of you that don't know. But the client bicycle is very important. And once you understand how frequently your clients are engaging and how much they need to engage before they buy you, you can accelerate the time between a client becoming aware of you and then them actually becoming a client of your law firm when you start using some of these strategies for omnipresence. All right, everyone. That's our show for this week. I'm Allison Williams, your law firm mentor. And I'll see you next week on our episodes of the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast.